Welcome to our global audience, and a special thanks to Mr. Jordi Valls for this video. Welcome to the International United Women Federations Conference, Rural Women Empowerment and Sustainability Development 2022. We have today experts from across the world. I invite you to turn off any distractions and get inspired by their messages and experiences. Please join me in welcoming the President of the International United Women Federation, Mrs. Raji Patterson.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the International United Women Federation, I extend our greetings and welcome to you. I cordially welcome our guest of honor, His Excellency Right Honorable Paramasivam Vayyaburi, former Vice President of Mauritius. Thank you for accepting our invitation. I also welcome Dr. Eduardo Quiroga, founder of Silvagro, as a guest of honor. It is my privilege to welcome our panelists, Dr. Sultan Ahmed Ismail, environmental scientist, Mr. Bernard William Chittunga, Senior Officer, African Development Bank, Peter Walls and Shanash Khan, environmental activists, our speakers, participants, and media. We greatly appreciate each person's presence. International United Women Federation is conducting this parallel event at CSW66, bringing attention to the importance of the development of rural women, helping them to thrive while improving environmental sustainability. Rural women are key agents for development. They play an energetic role towards the achievement of transformational economic, environmental, and social changes required for sustainable development. It should be noted that the Sustainable Development Goals are interconnected with rural women in a massive way, and they should be educated and directed. Rural women's rights should be protected, and the necessary resources has to be provided to them. This will help them to become empowered and economic and leadership roles and contribute innovative ideas. Studies say that over 1.7 billion women and girls live in rural areas, and rural women make up 43% of agriculture force in developing countries. Around the world, rural women and girls ensure food security for their communities and are major contributors to their economics. Given their wide-ranging functions in crucial sectors such as agriculture, energy, forestry, water and land management, rural women play an important role in climate change adaptation and justification. What can we do? Can we contribute to bring changes in a positive way? How is this possible? Yes, we can. A small seed can become a big tree that provides homes to many lives. We can contribute to awareness about their rights, recognize their achievements, help them to become leaders, provide them decision-making skills and knowledge, teach them to be independent, thriving in success in many ways. This can be achieved by workshops and seminars in your local areas. Today's event will present knowledge in climate change, financing, marketing strategy, and some innovative economic ideas that can become a tangible action plan. Without further ado, I would like to invite our guest of honor, His Excellency, Right and Honorable Paramasivam Vayyaburi, former Vice President of Mauritius. He is a politician and diplomat who served as the 5th Vice President of the Republic of Mauritius from April 2016 to November 2019. He also served as the acting president of Mauritius until his resignation on 26 November 2019. He is the Grand Officer of the Order of the Star and the Key of the Indian Ocean. It is my pleasure to pass this floor to you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I welcome this opportunity to present to you a very brief message as you embark on this online conference on the very important issue of women empowerment. Let me congratulate and thank all participants in this conference for your personal interest and dedication to the advancement of gender equality through women empowerment. We have to agree that concerning women empowerment, a lot of progress has been achieved over the past few decades, thanks to the engagement of activist individuals and NGOs, and especially with the boost given by the United Nations. For my part, I agree with all of you who believe that empowering women through education and training and the provision of equal opportunities in terms of jobs and financial assistance will go a long way towards solving a number of social problems, such as alleviation of poverty, etc. I will leave you with 5 major ideas for you to consider during your deliberation. Number 1, empower women with digital technology. A smartphone in the hands of a rural woman is an invaluable tool for communication, information, education, and entertainment. Number 2, provide electricity through photovoltaic cells in the rural areas for lighting and for them to be able to run their simple machines that run their small business. Number 3, provide family education and impress upon them the necessity for birth control. Number 4, provide financial assistance through microcredit schemes. And finally, convince women that it is up to them to come forward. It is up to them to assert themselves in order for them to succeed to achieve their potential. I wish you all a very successful conference. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. I want to express our gratitude to His Excellency, Mr. Viapuri, for his inspiring words. Now, let me introduce Dr. Eduardo Quiroga, PhD in economics and consultant for biodiversity and climate change management. Dr. Quiroga, over to you.
Good morning. Thank you very much for this opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to share some of the experiences I've had recently in Southern Africa, in the countries of Zambia, Ivory Coast, Chad, Ghana, South Sudan, about women farmers. The good news is that they are changing crops to cope with this long climate change that we already have started, and that they're now involved in raising new crops that are more adapted to the hot and drier conditions that they're all facing in the area. They are growing good crops. They're now, besides growing the traditional corn and cassava, they're now growing peas, groundnuts, sweet potatoes, soybean, sesame, etc. And they are successful. However, they're facing challenges that I want to point out to you, and I think there is something we can do. The source of the challenge is the fact that women farmers, besides farming, they're also mothers, they're also wives, they're caregivers. We've done surveys, as you probably know, about the schedules, and we found out that they work approximately 18 hours a day, 365 a day in Anglophone and in Francophone Africa. So they really don't have time for anything else. They are full. They work full time. Now, they also use cell phones. So when they have the crops grown, they know where to go. They know in what market they could get a better return, but they don't have the time to go to the market. They have the farm to attend to, they have the children, they have caregiving, etc. So a lot of times they lose money because a middleman will come and will take the crop for almost nothing. And sometimes they reduce the amount of crops that are going to grow so that they only meet the subsistence of the family needs, therefore underutilizing their knowledge and the technology they have learned. The second challenge they have is that in order to do the marketing, they need additional funding. They need additional funding to buy equipment, storage equipment, transportation, and so on. But this funding cannot come from the ordinary banks because they don't have collateral to negotiate a loan. So it has to come from microfinance operations. In summary, we have a great potential among the women's farmers in Southern Africa, so they can feed their children and improve their lives. But they have key challenges, which I'm going to summarize in the following. The first is that they need very quickly campaigns of literacy and numeracy, just to update and brush up whatever they learned earlier. Secondly, they need support for marketing their crops. Third, they need funds in advance of the marketing season to pay for the cost of marketing, storages, and others. Like I said, this last item can only come from microfinance operations. And finally, they need the support of all of us that we can give them support, but a sustained support from 3 to 6 years, because there's a learning curve in this situation, and we need to accompany them for at least 2 to 6 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Quiroga. Thank you very much, His Excellency, for joining us today. Today, I just want to invite a set of very special speakers. In the interest of time, we have posted all their information in our website that you can actually reach out. So their accomplishments are there. So let me welcome Mrs. Soraya. She is the founder of the Muslim Women Speakers. Over to you, Mrs. Soraya.
Marking International Women's Day, Antonio Guterres said, "Women's empowerment is essential to global progress." Today, I am sadly tasked to reiterate this. It cannot be business as usual when we disempower more than half of the population from participating in social, political, and economic arenas. Now is the time. I speak out against this discrimination, not in anger, but with great disappointment and sorrow in my heart. Now is the time. As an international activist, I work deeply in rural villages of Gombe State, Nigeria, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. In the summer of 2017, I was working with Rahila and Grace. One was Muslim and the other was Christian. With great dedication and commitment, we raised sufficient funds to support them buy 2 sewing machines. Today, they have several women working with them. These women look at fear and despair in the face. They endure incredible hardship, raising their children, feeding them with a meager income. The story of Rahila and Grace is important. It brought the communities together, it resolved conflict, and provided employment to other women. Now is the time. I want to propose 3 things today. We must recognize the barriers that exclude rural women and the impact of such exclusion to building democratic societies critical to the long-term stability of countries and regions. 2, we must encourage partner governments to adopt plans, adjust policies, and programs to improve outcomes in gender equality that must include performance matrix. 3rd, and the most important, is the ability for women to build power. They must organize for action. They must feel the potential to create a better tomorrow. We must make women's empowerment a consistent priority. Women's empowerment must not only be accepted, it must be desired. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Soraya. Now let me welcome Mrs. Elaine Alam, the International United Women Federation Ambassador for Pakistan. Elaine.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, I'll just start by saying, on behalf of Asia, looking at the context of Asia, that the vulnerability of rural women is confounded by the meager asset base, social marginalization, lack of mobility, and also exclusion from the decision-making processes in response to a disaster. And according to a Population Council report of 2019, it highlights that the programs that aim at combating the effects of climate change require a gender-sensitive approach, so that climate change does not obstruct the development and reduction of poverty in the region. And the South Asian countries basically, struggle under the burden of a persisting rural gender inequality. Although women directly contribute to food production as cultivators, laborers, and family workers in the agricultural sector. And rural women continue to struggle with dual responsibilities of economic production and domestic labor. And most are, of course, confronted by poverty, illiteracy, high health risks, inadequate access to productive resources, health and sanitation services, and the denial of market access in the profitable food sectors. And considering that I have also worked with Asian, Pakistani, and Indian and Sri Lankan women who belong to religious minorities, they face another layer of marginalization if they are in the rural and agricultural sector. And this has been observed that from many, being female and living in rural Asia is, of course, doubly discriminatory. So some proposed recommendations for initiatives that working in Asia that I worked out is that data and evidence on climate change conditions that for the is very important. Landscape of resource allocation and the gaps in addressing the climate change challenges by the local governments is also important, so that that kind of support also be given. And then, of course, support women groups at the local community levels for sustainable rural practices. And then also monitor and advocate and build an advocacy for a gender-sensitive lens in disaster risk reduction programs and those initiatives.
Thank you, Mrs. Elaine. Now, let me welcome Mrs. Eleverasi Elanguban, Executive Administrator of the International United Women Federation. Eleverasi, over to you.
Sustainability means to fulfill the present needs without compromising the needs of the future generation. I'm really glad and very proud to be part of this unforgettable historical event. I'm here to present our organization. The mission of the International United Women Federation is to develop the women to be a strong leaders to prevent violence against women. International United Women Federation is dedicated to achieve gender equality. We mainly focus on women empowerment. We support women worldwide to live a life free from all forms of violence. International United Women Federations encourage leaderships and guides women by providing counseling through our awareness conferences, motivational workshops, and seminars. Even though International United Women Federation was established in 2020, the idea was conceived in 2017. Since then, we accomplished many social impacting projects. Within 2 years, we won 6 world record events, and we organized 3 mass impacting international conferences. We raised the awareness of importance of education through our Educate a Woman and Empower the World conference. We talk about the widows problem through our Invisible Woman and Invisible Problems International Widows Day conference. We raise the voice against the violence through our Stand Up and Speak Up conference. Through these conferences and awareness programs, we raise the fund, which is used for the life improvement social development projects, such as planting the tree, we are digging the borewell projects and fishing projects, and we donate the fund for the food relief, and we train the people to adapt the cooperative system which improve the life of the social rural development life system. If you want to know more about us, please visit our website iuwf.com. We are very open and welcome all of you. Finally, I want to say a quote of the Mahatma Gandhi: "Earth gave enough to satisfy every man's need, not any man's greed." Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elivarasi Langavan. Now let's hear from Mr. Balaji Prakash Rao, the project director at the International United Women Federation. Over to you, Mr. Balaji.
Thank you, Olga. Thank you, Ola. Here, I'm going to talk about the most important thing about financing. As Mr. Eduardo alluded to, microfinancing is going to be a key player for this. So we all agree that women entrepreneurship is essential not only to support their family income, but also to play a significant role in the economic development and the social well-being of the society. So creating an environment for a strong culture of women entrepreneurship is critical for the country's economic development. So in general, rural women are not even aware of the local policies. They're not even equipped with the necessary skills to venture into business or even to secure wage employment. Whether it is going to be wage employment or self-employment, it is pertinent to mention that improved training and skill development are critical. So for example, in India, the Ministry of MSME has been implementing skill training through National Institute of Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises. They help potential individuals with practical training and continuous mentoring and support. So now, assuming that the rural women are trained in a particular skill, it is always the question of how they're going to get the capital needed to be the entrepreneur. That is where the microfinancing comes into play. Thanks to Nobel Prize winner Muhammad Yunus from Bangladesh, who started the Grameen Bank in 1983. Microfinancing is a banking service provided to unemployed or low-income individuals who otherwise have no access to financial services. Microfinance allows people to take an affordable small business loans safely and still in a manner that is consistent with ethical lending practices. Unlike typical financing situations where the lender is primarily concerned with the borrower having enough collateral to cover the loan, many microfinancing organizations focus purely on helping the entrepreneur succeed. In many instances, people seeking help from microfinance organizations are first required to take an introductory money management class. The lessons cover understanding the interest rates, the concept of cash flow, how financial agreements and savings accounts work, how to budget, and most importantly, how to manage debt. Like conventional lenders, microfinanciers must charge interest on loans. However, they institute specific repayment plans with payments due at regular intervals. Instead of the collateral, some lenders require loan recipients to set aside a part of their income in a savings account, which can be used as an insurance if the customer defaults. In other cases, microlenders pool borrowers together as a buffer. So also you could see the loans can range as little as $100. Now let's look at some key statistics. There are more than 10,000 microfinancing institutions globally. Microfinancing lenders provide more than $120 billion, and it is projected to reach $394.8 billion in the next 5 years. And most importantly, women make up almost 80% of the first-time microfinance borrowers. Globally, there are 65% of the microfinancing went to rural women, rural borrowers. So we have a great and excellent opportunity to become entrepreneurs. So please explore your country-specific microfinancing lenders to start your journey as an entrepreneur. Now, after this one, we'll be hearing many success stories. So good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Balaji. Closing this segment of speakers, I want to invite Professor A.M. Riaz Ahmed, Senior Lecturer in the Faculty of Applied Science at the Southeastern University of Sri Lanka. Over to you, Professor Riaz.
Thank you for your wonderful introduction. Greetings to you all. Today, I'm going to talk sustainable rural project with the low cost or no cost. In other words, can say low funding and no funding at all. So in that context, I'm going to share 3 projects. The first one is a seed ball making. Second one is a pot making from solid waste. Third one is a compost making from organic waste. The aims of the presentation is that raising awareness, sharing self-experiences, creating interest in environmental conservation activities in the field work for fighting against the climate changes. So let's look at the seed balls. So natural resources are under massive threat to our overconsumed cultural lifestyle today. Forests are facing great destruction. Forests and its various flora and fauna are sacrificed behind the production of every commodity we use. Thus, destroyed trees and fast-growing exotic trees are introduced to restore the forest. These exotic trees compete with the native species and eventually destroy the native trees permanently. So these are being rapidly destroyed in the name of the development. So thus, the forest must be regenerated at the same phase. So there are several methods in place of it. The seed ball is one of the most effective and unfamiliar to Sri Lanka. Right? Seed balls are clay balls are called earth balls. It is the most ancient Egyptian method used to create the trees and forest, and has also been practiced by the tribes of the Japanese and India. So it was reintroduced after World War II. So by Japanese botanist Masanobu Fukako. So a seed ball is a ball made of mixture of red clay and fresh and organic compost. In the middle of the seed balls are often placed the seeds of useful trees and plants and flowers. So next materials and methods. So need red clay and seeds of quality trees and cow dung and water. The four things are very important. So there are several methods involved in making seed balls. 3 parts of clay and 1 parts of dung. So sometimes you can be used with the finely chopped paper, straw, cotton, wool, husk, cardboard also can be used, and add enough water to the mixture of the knead into the dough, then make into the balls, or place the seed in center of the balls. So if you wish, you can put 3 seeds center of the balls. Then first you should dry in the shade for a day, and then dry in the sun for 1 to 3 days. So then you can store cool and dry places. These are the materials for the seed balls. We can get is free of charge, right? Maybe it's making seed balls. So imagine so growing trees or forests that do not have no plowing, no fertilizer, pesticide, no weed control, pruning, no labor. So throwing onto that, these seed balls can be thrown from time to time before the rainy season. The trees where trees and forests were needed. Right, so there are a lot of benefits from the seed balls to make abundant lands beautiful, and maybe we can get back the biological diversity. There are many benefits. Seed balls, this is a seed ball cycle. So you should think about. So one can make 100 seed balls per day. One can make 3,000 seed balls per month. So price of the seed ball is 10 Sri Lankan rupees. The minimum potential earning is 30,000 Sri Lankan per rupees one can earn. So with no cost and environmental friendly. So these we have conducted several seed balls workshop and the things. So next one is the next sustainable project is to make pots from solid waste. Pots and vases can made from the parts of the coconut, palmyra fruits and the plastic bottles. So after using, this is, you see, you can. So the third one is a compost. Next sustainable project is to make compost from the organic waste. You see this. So all projects are no cost or low cost, or need low funding or no funding at all. So there are some ongoing projects. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Now we'll be moving on to hearing the experiences from our 2 leaders. Let me welcome Mrs. Nora Verdugo, the president of the Guarceñas Women Association of El Retiro from Colombia. We will be doing a translation, and I'm going to be doing my best as she will be addressing us in Spanish, and I'll be just working with her in English. So, Mrs. Nora, I need you to be on the screen with me, please. Nora.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Nora Verdugo, soy presidente y representante legal de la Asociación de Mujeres Guarceñas, ubicadas en El Retiro, Colombia, en Sudamérica.
Good morning, my name is Nora Verdugo. I am the president and legal representative of the Guarceñas Women's Association located in El Retiro, Colombia, in South America.
La asociación fue constituida legalmente hace 9 años y la finalidad a través de la cual se realiza es ayudar a mejorar la calidad de vida de las mujeres a través de los emprendimientos que ellas tengan o a su vez de los que ya se estén liderando en la asociación.
The association was legally founded 9 years ago, and the purpose is to help improve the quality of life of these women through the entrepreneurships they have, or in turn, through the ventures that are already being led within the association.
La asociación está actualmente conformada por 78 mujeres, entre las cuales encontramos unas 55 bastante activas y muy enfocadas en los proyectos.
The association currently counts with 78 women, among whom we find about 55 quite active and very focused on the projects.
Estos emprendimientos usan economía circular y no solo benefician al medio ambiente, sino también a cada una de sus familias.
These ventures use circular economy and not only benefit the environment, but also each of their families.
Nuestras mujeres tienen un potencial creativo muy grande que pueden aprovechar y que a veces no son conscientes de que lo tienen.
Our women have a great creative potential they can take advantage of, and sometimes they're not aware that they have it.
Es por eso que les ofrecemos una serie de capacitaciones en liderazgo y empoderamiento para que ellas mismas se concienticen y puedan ver cómo usar su creatividad como elemento para su sostenimiento y del ambiente. Igualmente las asesoramos a través de la ejecución de sus iniciativas.
That is why we offer them a series of training in leadership and empowerment so that they themselves become aware and can see how to use their creativity as an element for their sustainability and of the environment. Likewise, we provide consulting and advice through the execution of their initiatives.
Estamos fortaleciendo aproximadamente 5 proyectos que van de la mano de la economía circular. Nuestro proyecto líder o proyecto estrella es el jabón ecológico Aromas del Guarzo, cuya materia prima es el aceite utilizado.
We are strengthening approximately 5 projects that go hand in hand with the circular economy. Our leading project or star project is the ecological and organic soap Aromas del Guarzo, whose raw material is oil already used in the household.
Un segundo proyecto está enfocado a ayudar a mejorar la educación de todos nuestros niños. Los juguetes didácticos son elaborados con tapas de gaseosa y tapas de cerveza.
A second project is focused on helping to improve the education of all our children. Educational toys are made with cardboard, soda cups, and beer cups.
Un tercer emprendimiento, Oro Verde, donde con botellas de plástico, tapas de gaseosa y de cerveza, hemos logrado crear una línea de accesorios de muy alta calidad que ya es bastante reconocido, no solo en el municipio, sino también en el departamento.
A third venture, Oro Verde, or Green Gold, where with plastic bottles, soft drinks, and beer cups, we have managed to create a line of very high quality accessories, which is already well known, not only in the municipality, but also in the department.
Un tercer proyecto es Creaciones Cariño, en donde encontramos una de nuestras mujeres empresarias que transforma material reciclable. Todo lo que le colocamos en las manos lo logra convertir en una verdadera obra de arte.
Another venture is Creations Cariño, or Darling in English, where we find one of our women entrepreneurs who transforms recyclable material, and everything that we put in her hands, she managed to turn it into true work of art.
Una de las formas que hemos encontrado para darle visibilidad a nuestros proyectos ha sido a través de la organización de grandes eventos. Es así como el año pasado organizamos una feria 100% artesanal llamada Hecha a Mano desde el Retiro.
One of the ways we have found to give visibility to our projects and the projects of the women has been through the organization of major events. This is how last year, in 2021, we organized a 100% craft fair called Handmade from El Retiro.
En esa oportunidad, nuestras mujeres tuvieron la oportunidad de estar al lado de algunos de los más grandes artesanos del país, logrando así darles una mayor visibilidad.
On that occasion, our women had the opportunity to be next to some of the greatest artisans in the country, thus giving them greater visibility.
De otro lado, las mujeres de la zona rural, en términos generales, pueden tener muchas dificultades para hacer llegar sus productos a la zona urbana. Entonces vamos ofreciéndoles asesoría para solucionar esta dificultad.
On the other hand, women in rural areas, in general terms, can have many difficulties to get their products to the urban area. So we are offering them advice to solve this particular difficulty.
Lo más importante para todas nuestras mujeres es lograr una concientización de que unidas, apoyándonos las unas a las otras y trabajando en verdadero equipo, podemos causar más impacto, no solo en el municipio, sino en otras zonas del país.
The most important thing for all our women is to raise awareness that together, supporting each other and working as a true team, we can cause more impact, not only in the municipality, but in other areas of the country.
Y finalmente, uno de nuestros logros más grandes hasta el momento ha sido la construcción de la Casa de la Mujer, un espacio donde no solo podremos mostrar de forma continua nuestros emprendimientos, sino que también contaremos con espacio para continuar recibiendo las capacitaciones y asesorías en las distintas áreas y lo que vayamos requiriendo.
And finally, one of the biggest achievements to date, it has been the construction of the House of the Women, a space where we can not only continuously show our endeavors, but we will also have a space to continue receiving training and advice in the different areas as we required.
Este logro se obtuvo trabajando articuladamente con nuestra administración municipal, de la mano de nuestro señor alcalde y todo su equipo de trabajo.
This achievement was obtained by working in coordination with our municipality administration, hand in hand with our mayor and his entire work team.
Muchas gracias por la oportunidad que se nos está brindando en este momento. A continuación, los dejo con la señora Patricia Latorre, quien es la encargada de nuestro proyecto líder. Gracias.
Thank you very much for the opportunity that is given to us at this time. And then I leave you with Mrs. Patricia Latorre, who is in charge of our leading project, Ecological Soap, Aromas del Cuarzo. So, Mrs. Nora, gracias por estar con nosotros. Gracias, Nora. Patricia, bienvenida. Welcome, Patricia. We're going to be playing a video testimony that Patricia shared with us in order to, just because of the time restrictions that we have. So we will play the video that Patricia put together. She's a leader and she has been leading this project for the last 2 years, being extremely successful for the region. Thank you, Patricia. Gracias, Patricia.
Muchas gracias a ustedes.
If we speak cultural and productive diversity, we are together in the company of the Guarceñas Women Association.
I am Patricia Latorre. I am part of the Guarceñas Women Association here in the municipality of El Retiro. At this moment, I'm the leader of a beautiful project, the artisanal ecological soap Aromas del Cuarzo, Quartz Aromas. This soap is handmade in a place provided by the town hall as a loan for use. I want to share the process of making our ecological soap, Aromas del Cuarzo. The raw material that we use here is the oil recycled from your homes. We help the environment because we are not throwing the oil away. The soap is ecological. It is a blue soap that we use mainly to clean clothes, but it can also be used for other household and kitchen chores. Here, we manufacture this soap with these working women, mothers who are heads of their households, perhaps, and we support each other.
Madres cabezas de hogar puede ser, y nos apoyamos entre todas.
Principalmente lo estamos vendiendo.
We're mainly selling it at fairs or flea market events. We work Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays in this place that I was mentioning earlier, and our desire and our project is to continue working until we achieve our dream and our goal, which is the approval of the health authority in Vima.
Nuestra meta que es el INVIMA.
Cuando ya terminamos la elaboración de los productos.
When we have finished manufacturing the products, we pack them in this silicone containers and then we start the drying process. Drying takes 20 days, between 15 to 20 days, depending on the weather. And also the color depends on the color of the recycled oils we get.
Y también depende el color de los aceites que vengan reciclados.
Here we are like Cinderellas, where every day we're climbing up to reach our castle. The culmination for us to reach that castle is to have the approval of the health authority in Vima. So we know that it is a long process, that is our dream, but with the help of this group of women, we're going to achieve it. We have already made significant progress, such as changing the wrapping paper that was previously made of plastic. We now have a greener package, a new package to offer to society, to all.
Este nuevo empaque.
This association, founded 9 years ago, also organizes large entrepreneurial market events in the municipality and fights for the empowerment of Guarseña women.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Latorre, for sharing this story. Lastly, but not least, we invite Mrs. Menaka Tilakaran, I'm sorry, Tilakaran, entrepreneur of Manvasani. Over to you, Madam Menaka.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I'm very honored to be here to share my story with you. I'm humbled and opportunity to speak among so many successful women and to call myself a female entrepreneur and leader in the field of sustainable development. My name is Menaka Tilakarajan. I am a founder of Manvasani. I was born and raised into Chennai as a middle-class family. My father was a daily labor, a transport company, and mother is a housewife. Growing up, my parents made my sacrifice for me so that I could complete my education to earn a bachelor in society. I spent much of my early career working my way as an assistant manager in the IT sector. In 2008, I married Tilakarajan. I had known as a Tilakarajan for many years before we got married. We worked as an IT professional and planned to build a career in the IT industries. But 1 year later, in 2009, the journey of Manvasani begins. When our first son was born in 2009, my husband Tilak wanted to prove our son as a healthiest food could be fine. He searched for traditional rice and millets to find a very difficult to find the native variety. He wanted to find a native variety because he knew there were rich in antioxidant, fiber, protein, minerals like iron and zinc. It was during the long search that he had a wonderful opportunity to meet Nammalvaraya. Nammalvaraya was a Tamil eco-scientist and environment activist. He is known as a work as a promote organic farming. He shared his knowledge to passion with me and my husband. He showed us the benefit giving organic and forgotten rice, traditional rice varieties and millets. He encouraged my husband to start a business to raise awareness about the traditional rice varieties. We were inspired. Nel Jayaraman Iyer also helped us to introduce many rice varieties to us. We are so grateful to him. Tilak then decided to start our own journey to learn about the root and properties to native rice and millets. He collected nearly 100 varieties of rice and studied each grain with a care. Soon after he quit his job to follow his passion, Tilak traveled across the India to find the traditional rice and millets. We opened a small organic shop. I held a well-paid position at my job and resigned the job my husband. But he really wanted to see me as an entrepreneur. He pushed me to become a proprietor for the business and sent me to many training sessions, which is encouragement. I fully decided to leave my job. Because my husband, I wanted to spread awareness about this forgotten rice. We earned the respect of Indian agriculture community. We recognize the protection of native grain was the result and hard working of Tamil Nadu farmers who our generations have worked under very difficult conditions. We met with many farmers during our search. The farmer told us about how they struggled to sell the grain they grow, and when they did, they were offered very little in the return. Tilak and Avara communicated to work and directly with the organic farming so that we could help the many ways. We wanted to help them to preserve the operations of forgotten varieties of traditional rice, but we also learned that native grains are very resistant to the floods and bringing this grain back in our planet. So we could protect many farmers from the losses. Together, Tilak and I spent a year learning about a native variety. Sometimes the most beneficial one was the most difficult to find. We continue to run our small shop, and then from the nearly 16 types of grains from the organic farm, we slowly regained a production of value-added products, including a nutrition flours, wafers, health mix, etc. Just a Tilak dream, a small organic shop grew in a production unit under the name of Manvasani. But unfortunately, my husband could not be around long to enjoy the fruit of labor. In 2017, on 1 year after establishing Manvasani, I lost my beloved husband. As a mother of two very young children, I was left shocked and Tilak sudden passing. Indian agriculture community with me, but I am determined. I am also willing to disappoint my late husband. I was fearlessly determined to run a Manvasani in a single-handed, from understanding my customer to learning how to market our product to increasing diversity of the product and good manufacture. I decided to teach myself every aspect of business. I spent several learning and trying and failing and never give up. Never step I took a tribute to my husband, and every achievement could be a testimony to my hard work. I realized that the most of the Populations today wanted to an instant meal that I still provide a nutrition, but they did not know how to prepare a traditional rice varieties and millets. So I saw the opportunity to educate others. Many people think that cooking is native rice varieties and millets. It's very difficult to take a lot of times. I wanted to teach everyone that is not so difficult and to become a key of my mission. I started delivering cooking session on TV and explaining the health benefits of the traditional rice varieties. I used and started offering lessons how to incorporate the old grains to the daily cooking. To my surprise, my lessons became very popular. At university, which will draw the interest of a young generation. Before I knew it, the Manvasari University, the value added in instant product are vastly grew. Despite the challenge I faced, I am so proud of Manvasari growth. We started off a small shop and that struggled to sell even a half a kg of rice. Today, we are exporting the product worldwide. We have also won many awards along the way. Today, I passionately encourage my community members to start his own farming business because I am confident that the value-added sales of traditional rice and millets are growing to grow the year to come. I am determined to bring the foods of Asian back to our household because I knew the value of immeasurable. It is not only to preserve our culture or for a nutritional benefit, it's a global warming because of growing a concern around the world. A diversity of growing to produce, especially that can adopt the extreme weather conditions. It became every more important. Manvasari reminds us that reconnecting our Asian root can help to solve many modern day challenges. Again, I like to sincerely thank the United Nations and International Unit of Women Foundation for inviting me today to share a Manvasari journey, to know that as a woman can achieve everything in a set of mind. I hope we will continue and see more women gain confidence to follow their dreams. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Menaka. We wish you, Mrs. Nora, Mrs. Patricia, great success in all your endeavors, and we're so happy that you were able to join us today and share your inspiring stories. In continuing to inspire us, we will move to our panel discussion. So Banu, over to you.
Thank you so much, Olga. Wow, what an amazing slew of people who have been achieving so much. You can only feel that, goosebumps all over you. But now to continue our wonderful streak, let's move on to our distinguished panel, who would be presenting on the theme of women empowerment and their impact on the environment. Q&A will be at the end of the panelists' presentations. We are respectful of your time, so depending on the availability, we would be addressing some of the questions. Kindly put your questions in the chat window. And at this point, let's welcome Mr. Bernard William Chitunga, Senior Officer for Partnerships, Donor Relations, and Special Projects at African Development Bank. Mr. Bernard, if you can start us off, please.
Again. Thank you so much, Olga, and thank you so much for the invite to participate in this International United Women Federation Conference. From the conversations that we have had from the chief guest and the speakers and through their experiences, we all come to an agreement that when the women of the world will win, then the world will have won. And so it requires all our efforts around the world to be able to pull this half of the population to be able to participate in the development of the world. And so here at the Africa Development Bank, we are honored and privileged to be part of these efforts that are pulling, women, rural women, and more so women SMEs to be part of the economy. So at the Africa Development Bank, we have a flagship that we call the Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa. Its purpose is to bridge the existing finance gap for women SMEs on the continent. We know that the finance gap for women SMEs around the world, as indicated by IFC or the World Bank, is around $1.5 trillion. On the continent in sub-Saharan Africa, it's $42 billion. So the Africa Development Bank, through the Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa, we are envisaging that by 2026, we will have dented that by $5 billion. And so for us, we are multi-pronged and multidimensional in how we are doing and supporting women SMEs in Africa to be able to access finance. And so for us, we are looking at the challenge of capacity for women SMEs and the challenge of capacity for the financial ecosystem on the continent. And then we are looking at the challenge of the enabling environment, whether it's at policy, whether it's institutional, whether it's regulatory. And then we are looking at now leveraging and galvanizing the resources to be there. And so AFAWA, the Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa, is putting finances to financial institutions and other commercial entities that own lend to the women, sort of concessional amounts, concessional finances to those institutions. And then we are working with enablers, we are working with accelerators, we are working with business development service providers around those institutions to be able to support these women to be bankable, to be able to support this financial institution to understand the women SMEs market. And then, of course, using our convening power, especially working with our regional member countries, which are all 54 countries which own the Africa Development Bank, to ensure that we have the required policies and the required reforms that make the women and make the financial institutions to do business. And so we have what we call a guarantee mechanism. And this guarantee mechanism is financed by the G7, is financed by Sweden and Netherlands, where the Africa Development Bank has a partner who is the Africa Guarantee Fund. And so this partner is guaranteeing all financial institutions across Africa, and then basically now incentivizing and catalyzing these financial institutions to lend to women SMEs. So we are telling the ecosystem as the Africa Development Bank, lend to women SMEs. If there are any losses, we will be able to cover those losses by 75%. And then we are saying, look, we may understand that you don't have products, you don't have credit policies and the innovation that is required. We are extending some grants, technical assistance to those financial institutions to be able to understand the market. And we are not stopping there. We are going now to the cooperatives, to the business associations around those financial institutions to work with them so that they become bankable. So for us, it's more crowding in, more catalyzing the whole financial ecosystem for them to be able to lend to women SMEs. And then in the bank, we have the lines of credit, trade finance, that we put into these institutions so that there is money for the women to access. And so around the technical assistance, this is the picture we are painting, that the banks can commit to work with women SMEs, that the banks can start having disaggregated data. We can have innovative financial institutions. The banks, the financial institution can brand themselves to welcome the SMEs. And then there is gender sensitivity and commitment to diversity. And the governments, AU, African Union, the regional economic blocs like East Africa Community, ECOWAS, SADC, all of them can have policy engagements that enhance women SMEs. And so also 4 times in a year, we do call for proposals. These call for proposals are from institutions that are working with women business associations to strengthen skills and wealth creating. There are entities that are transitioning women SMEs, and these are mostly rural women SMEs who are in the informal economy to move to formal economy. We give them $250,000, those entities across the continent, a grant, so that their work is scaled up, and the banks now can have the confidence that yes, we have the women SMEs, and of course, continue to working on policies and institutional frameworks. Since our program, we have some case studies. Our year 0 was 2021. So 2022 is year 1. And we are already, having encouraging stories, from Cameroon, from Kenya, the Build Back Better on after COVID pandemic. So this slide gives us what we have done in 1 year, because 2021 was our year 0. 2022 is our year 1. That in 2021, the Africa Development Bank put forth 496 million for onward lending to financial institutions across the continent for the money to go to the women SMEs. These were in 22 countries. African countries. And on our guarantee scheme, 194 million, that is already in the hands of the women. When we did our first call for proposal last year and, approved 10 women business associations that are working with 16,000 women SMEs, and they are, in 16 countries. And so For us, we can only look forward to greater partnerships with you and all the actors working on the continent, even as we move forward. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your thoughts, Mr. Bernard. Appreciate that. Now let's move over to Mr. Peter Volz and Ms. Shanaz Khalil, environmental activists from Europe. Over to you, Mr. Peter and Ms. Shanaz.
A very good evening to our distinguished panel and guests. Thank you for inviting us to present a window into rural women's development in Sri Lanka, which of itself would not be possible without the support and guidance of Dr. Ranil Senanayaka. My name is Shanaz Khalil, and I work as a development officer with the Agronorton Research Organization based in Southwest Germany. The following presentation will consist of, first, Peter Volz, the director of the Agronorton, will set the context of his organic rice project in Sri Lanka. Secondly, experts will introduce their own initiatives which are already established and working with rural Sri Lankan women. This features women from different backgrounds speaking for themselves. 3, there will be an opportunity to ask questions of participating experts. And fourthly, contact details will be shared for direct communications. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Peter Volz. I work for the Agronauten Research for Food and Farming. We are working here in Germany and in Europe, but also in Sri Lanka and in India. And our research organization is aiming to support processes that foster direct relationships and also direct marketing between consumers and producers. We are basically interested in creating personal relationships because these relationships make the difference. If I know the farmer who produces my food and the farmer knows me, it's a total different situation than if you are in a supermarket and you just buy products based on the price or on the marketing. So what we try to do is establish these relationships, and there are actually different models also how to create and expand a local economy. Systems like community-supported agriculture that have been established in various countries, not only in the West, but also in the East. And now, actually, in Sri Lanka, we are interested to create these relationships where the buyer knows the producer and the other way around, because we have seen that these kind of relationships are also the basis for food sovereignty. Food sovereignty means that you know where your food comes from, what can be produced in your region, and how you can improve the production also. So that makes it much more concrete than a globalized market. Now, in this project in Sri Lanka, we are dealing with the issue of traditional rice, but I could name many other topics where we could address the issue and the approach. So when we look today at women and their efforts in Sri Lanka, for us it is important that we can support to create these networks, that we can support the exchange of knowledge, that we can support the availability of resources like seeds for the farmers, open pollinating seeds. All these aspects, they are interlinked, and we want to support the processes that are happening from within, from Sri Lanka, and we are very happy to see that there are many encouraging examples of this being put into place already. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Now we will hear from women who are beneficiaries of agroecological training at the Nayam Community Seed Bank in Cherikulam, as well as the founders of other women's initiatives and projects from around Sri Lanka.
I am Slojan, Director of Development, Community Seed Bank, Cherikulam. This seed bank was established in 2014. Our functions are seed lending, seed recovery system, promoting traditional seeds and organic agriculture, capacity building and knowledge sharing. Here all farmers are ladies and widows.
வணக்கம், எனது பெயர் விஜயராணி. நான் துட்டுவாகையில் வசித்து வருகிறேன். எனக்கு 3 பிள்ளைகள் உள்ளார்கள். நான் கணவனை இழந்து விவசாயம் மற்றும் வீட்டுத் தோட்டங்கள் செய்து எனது குடும்பத்தை கொண்டு நடாத்துகிறேன். அதிலும் குறிப்பாக சேதனை முறையில் விவசாயத்தை செய்து வருகிறேன். இதற்கான பாரம்பரிய விதை இனங்கள் செட்டிக்குளத்தில் அமைந்துள்ள விதை வங்கியில் வழங்கப்பட்டன. பின்பு கூட்டுப்பசலை தயாரிப்பது, மண்புழு பசலை தயாரிப்பது ஜெர்மன் நாட்டை சேர்ந்த திரு பீட்டர் அவர்களின் அனுசரணையில் டாக்டர் சுல்தான் சுலைமான் அவர்கள் பயிற்சிகளை எமக்கு வழங்கினார்கள். அவர்கள் மிகவும் அருமையான பயிற்சிகள், சேதன முறையில் செய்யக்கூடிய பயிற்சிகள் என்னென்ன என்பவற்றை எமக்கு சொல்லி தந்தார்கள். அத்தோடு என்னோடு இவ்வாறான பயிற்சிகளில் என்னை போன்ற பெண்களும் பங்கேற்று இப்பயிற்சியில் கருத்துக்களை அறிந்து அவர்களும் உயர்ந்த நிலையை அடைவோடும், அத்தோடு எங்கள் வாழ்க்கை தரனையும் உயர்த்தவும் கிராம மட்டத்திலான இது முக்கியமான பயிற்சி உள்ளது. இவ்வாறான பயிற்சிகளையும் பாரம்பரிய விதைகளையும் எமக்கு தந்து உதவுமாறும், இப்படிப்பட்ட பயிற்சிகளின் மூலம் நாங்கள் கொடிய நோய்களில் இருந்து எம்மை பாதுகாப்பதற்கும் உதவியாக இருக்கும். அத்தோடு சேதன முறையில் செய்யப்படும் பழங்கள், காய்கனிகளை உண்பதன் மூலம் நாங்கள் கொடிய நோய்களில் இருந்தும் எம்மை பாதுகாத்து கொள்ளலாம் என்பதையும், எமக்கு விதைப்பொருட்களையும் இன்னும் கூடிய பயிற்சிகளையும் தந்து உதவுமாறு கேட்டு கொள்கிறேன். நன்றி.
எனது பெயர் பீட்டர் நளினி. நான் செட்டிகுளம் காந்திநகர் பிரதேசத்தில் வசித்து வருகிறேன். கணவரை இழந்த நிலையில் எனக்கு கை கொடுத்தது வீட்டு தோட்டமும் விவசாயமும். செட்டிகுளம் பிரதேசத்தில் உள்ள சமூக வித வங்கியின் ஊடாக எனக்கு வித தானியங்களும் பயிற்சிகளும் வழங்கப்பட்டது. அண்மையில் ஜெர்மன் நாட்டை சேர்ந்த பீட்டர் சகான் என்பவரின் தொடர்பு கிடைக்கப்பட்டது. அவர்களுடைய ஏற்பாட்டில் சேதன முறையிலான விவசாயம், மண்புழு உரம் தயாரிப்பு போன்ற பயிற்சிகள் இந்தியாவிலிருந்து வருகை தந்த டாக்டர் சுல்தான் இஸ்மைல் அவர்களினால் வழங்கப்பட்டது. இது மிகவும் முக்கியமான பயிற்சி வகுப்பாக அமைந்துள்ளது எங்களுக்கு. இவ்வாறான பயிற்சிகள் எமது நாட்டில் தற்போது விவசாயம் இருப்பது மிகவும் அவசியமானது ஒன்றாகும். இதன் மூலம் நாமும் எமது பிரதேசமும் மிகவும் பயன்பெறக்கூடியதாக இருக்கும். இவ்வாறான பயிற்சிகள் வழங்கப்பட வேண்டும் என்று எனது விருப்பமாக இருக்கிறது. எனக்கு
Greetings from Sri Lanka. I'm Lorena Senanayake, and I am a member of the Secretariat of the International Analog Forestry Network, IFN. With the support of the Global Alliance for Green and Gender Action, we promote analog forestry as a gender-just climate solution. Analog forestry is a system of restoration that allows the return of biodiversity, ecological functions of the forest, while providing a diversity of crops to the rural family. Forest gardens are resilient systems to climate change and provide to rural families a diversity of crops, while also contributing to their well-being and improving their economy. With the IFN, we provide these trainings
on-site and online. In Sri Lanka, we are strengthening the capacities of our women accredited trainers so that they can accompany local women in the establishment of forest gardens.
I am Madhu Ratnayaka and I am one of the accredited trainer, AF trainer from Sri Lanka. And what we are actually doing is we are helping these rural women to develop their lands into forest garden and help them with the market linkages to get good price for their products. So if you want to know more about our work, so please visit our website down there and you can have more details on that.
Vanakkam, Mudal Vanakkam, good evening everybody. So I am in the east coast of Sri Lanka, here in the artist village that I am creating, an art space, an art lab for artists and non-artists to come and create life through art, the medium of art. I think I first of all say a big sending love and thanks to my mentor, Hanai father, Hanai uncle, Mr. Muthukumaru Suryakumar, who lives in Hawaii, who has got an organic farm and well-known artist around the world. I have started landscaping the place. It's a beautiful place located, I said, in the east coast. So around a lagoon and a mangrove with dynamic fauna and flora activity with Siberian birds and neem trees and coconut trees and palm trees. I have organic farming also for fresh food coming from the Mother Earth, and I don't put any chemicals or natural farming. We make also our compost and we cook with the wood fire. It's really a meditative place for artists to come and celebrate life through the medium of art. So I have started to build a stage here for performers to come and play music, dancers to perform, theatre. We as intellectuals and artists, we have responsibilities. So we don't make only art for money, you know. So it's God has given, the universe has given the potentiality to sense things in a more refined way. So we must take responsibility, as lots of artists in the history has taken responsibilities, intellectuals has taken responsibility, fight for freedom. Thank you very much.
In the small rural village of Ilukpitia is Calais, a tea garden, a forest. At Calais, we believe that it takes a village to raise a child. So, our village folk are invited to teach the kids of artisan tea makers. An after-school enrichment program provides academic support. Exciting activities such as singing, dancing, public speaking, handwork, drawing, and creative writing are included to nurture healthy, happy children. The weekend is reserved for knitting and sewing. Visitors to Calais are encouraged to meet the kids and teach them a new skill. The Calais team steps in as mentors, each adult guiding the life of one adolescent at a time. Calais tea, healing one person, one community, one forest, one flavorful sip at a time.
You have seen a variety of initiatives and projects that are working with rural Sri Lankan women, from small-scale farmers who benefit from training in organic farming and agroforestry principles, which further helps them to sustain themselves and their families and provides them with opportunities to sell their excess produce, to organizations which provide organic training, structures and marketing opportunities such as the International Analog Forestry Network, to individual women creating spaces in rural areas for creative exchange and the production of organic food, to private enterprises which have established good practice together with social engagement. All of these people have taken initiative themselves to establish their ideas based on holistic organic principles, health and sustainability. And that's why they are a sisterhood of sovereignty in Sri Lanka. If you would like to contact any of the participants, details will be provided.
Thank you so much, Mr. Peter and Ms. Shanaz. That was wonderful to see the impact that you're creating. And as Ms. Shanaz mentioned, participants can see the contact details in the chat history. So if you do wish to get in touch with them, please take note. In addition, I just wanted to remind you that the chat is still open for you to submit your questions if you are interested to further your knowledge in any of the topics that were shared today. And with that, let's move on to our next panelist. I invite Dr. Sultan Ahmed Ismail, soil biologist and ecologist, working with the government of Tamil Nadu in India. Dr. Sultan, over to you.
Good afternoon, good evening, participants wherever you are. Congratulations to this team for having asked me to make a presentation today that could reach several people across the globe. If I start looking at it, I would like to talk about sustainability through livelihoods. The best way to have sustainability is learn to soil your hands today for a sustainable future. First, a few questions as to what's all about sustainable livelihoods. Now, sustainable livelihood can also cover nutrition gardens, terrace gardens, school farms, community farms, because they make things self-reliant or resilient. And how can we make this happen? We can have people engaged in schools, households, communities, or as a job, as a vocation. But what are some of the key steps to make this happen? The problem today is in the modern economic pattern, the rural economy flows outside the rural area. For example, if a farmer is doing chemical farming, he or she has to buy all the nutrients from the external market. So the money from the rural area migrates to an external market. So when you talk about soil fertility, because fertility is related with fertilizers. Fertility is related with fertilizers. And when you buy fertilizers, the economy goes out. When you talk about soil health, where the farmer or anybody prepares by himself or herself, then the economy stays inside. So there's a lot of difference, the perception, whether you would like to work with soil fertility or with soil health. Because soil health is ecosystem health. There are several indicators to prove this as a livelihood sustainability. If you wish to know how your soil is, the most simplest experiment I recommend is take a little of soil, put it in a glass jar or a plastic jar, add water, mix it up, leave it on the table for about a couple of hours, and you find segregation of different layers. The topmost layer is the organic matter. You know how much of organic matter is going to be. But whereas in rural areas like India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, where people use cattle, the best way to understand whether your soil is good or rich and healthy is when you watch once the dung is laid by the cattle on the ground, on the soil. After a couple of days, if it goes dry, completely dry, that means there's some problem with the soil. There's no moisture in it. There are no soil organisms in it. But when the same dung brittles and breaks down into small crumbles, it's very clear that the soil is moist and there are soil organisms. Even if you take a small stick and move the dung, you can see a lot of microarthropods doing their job. And a nutrient depleted soil, always produces food which is not of great significance. You know, what happens is the governments, instead of trying to improve the soil and produce good nutrient-rich food, they are planning to harvest the food and fortify the food. Fortified food is not going to be a good answer to the forthcoming generation or the next generation. Vermi is one of them. Vermi is derived from the term vermis, earthworms, and tech is technology. Now, when you look at it, these are all our local earthworms. When I talk about earthworms, I'm not going to go into the details. We classify them as to three major groups. One, which lives on the surface of the soil, which produces the manure. The second, which lives inside the soil, which softens the soil. And the third one, where the earthworms keep moving up and down, creating channels in the soil, and they are called as the anasics. Epi is above, jaic is earth, endo is inside, jaic is earth, anasic means intermediates. These are all our local earthworms, very common in this belt. Periods excavatus is one of the most beautiful earthworms which can also do composting. But people try to use Icenia fetida, which are called as red wrigglers. Or in India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, this part of the country, and Africa, people prefer the African night crawler, which is Eudralus eugeni. Yes, I want to do vermicomposting. Is it simple? It's very simple. You see to it that the dung is already processed. I mean, it has lost its heat. And then you introduce the worms and leave a dry cow dung pat on the top. The worms multiply, they start eating, and they start producing manure. What? You ask me, where do I get these pats? Very easy nowadays. They're also available on Amazon, Flipkart, Big Basket. The funniest thing, right? Now, this is vermicompost. As an economy generation, what you can do is collect whatever organic waste you have, organic material you have from the markets, from the restaurants, from wedding halls, and just prepare a sort of a bed. What we normally recommend is to put brick or sticks at the base, and then you add up a layer of about 10 to 12 inches of organic matter. Better to shred it because, the surface area increases. And then you add microorganisms to it. The simplest way to add microorganisms, which I follow, is to add diluted cow dung. Diluted cow dung, very simple, right? Spray on it and keep on adding layer after layer till you get to a height of about 4 to 5 feet. And loosely cover it with a polythene. Now, this polythene is important because it retains moisture. Inside, temperature builds up, which goes to around 60 to 62 degrees Celsius. Now, this temperature is also important for me because it destroys unwanted pathogens, microbes, undesirable and undesirable seeds. Once this is destroyed, after about 15 days, we make a turnover. This is very important for us. And another 30 to 40 days, the whole thing is over. The whole thing shrinks. The material is almost ready, cooked up. Pass it through a coarse sieve. You can use it as such as well, but you can pass it through a coarse sieve. Give it to the earthworms. The earthworms eat it. Take it again, pass it through a fine sieve, and your vermicompost is ready. Very simple mechanisms, which I want you people to develop it as an income generation program and have rural economy developed through it. But please be very clear. Don't try to confuse between earthworms and nematodes. Earthworms have segments. Nematodes do not have segments, right? And be careful when you do vermicomposting. This chap is very nasty. It's a parasite on earthworms. So when you see this fellow coming over there, just take him, pick him, and put it in salt water. Discard it. Whatever way of composting you may do, wherever you keep organic matter, this caterpillar may come. And if this comes, see to it that you just pick it up and give it to any chicken or poultry. They will consume it. They love it. Because if you leave it as such, then this becomes the rhinoceros beetle. And rhinoceros beetle is a parasite on coconut trees. Is that clear? It becomes a parasite on coconut trees. Home composting can be done. Very simple mechanisms. I want you people, the people who would like to take up this as a vocation can become consultants on how to do this home composting. Very simple mechanisms of just multiplying earthworms and keep adding. So you find earthworms multiplying and doing the job. Beautiful, perfect. Or very simple in rural areas, especially in Africa, Asia. Very simple, train people to just make a sort of mark a circle on the soil, about 3 feet dia. But please, for God's sake, don't take a scale. Roughly 3 feet, make a circle and mark a circle. And about 1.5 feet deep at the middle, excavate the soil and put it around. Now put a little bit of cow dung or sour butter, milk or sour curd, whichever will enable multiplication of microorganisms in the middle. Now this will attract microorganisms. At the same time, it can also attract earthworms. So once it is there, start asking people to put their vegetable waste over there. That keeps getting composted. And where you find the yellow arrow on the inner side of the ridge, start planting simple plants like coriander, mint, and any of these greens like palak or whatever it is. And on the outer side, you can start planting plants like brinjal, okra, the eggplant, the okra, the tomato. So on one side, they are also managing waste. At the same time, they are growing their own vegetables, which can add up to the nutrition levels of the population. This is what we have been training a lot of people here in India, as far as South India is concerned, especially in Tamil Nadu. And you can also become experts, because today, many people are getting fascinated with terrace gardens. And it's very important to have terrace gardens today. People enjoy doing it. So if you have an old building or an old terrace, you can do it very easily within the first 3 feet of the outer boundary wall. The outer boundary wall is called as the load-bearing wall. So it can take up the load. And if it's an old building, normally you will find, like the strong sort of ridges in the, as a support structure. So we call them as beams. So on both the sides of the beams, you can have 3 feet. If you further want to reduce weight, very simple, just make a sort of a cot with casuarina or bamboo and grow your plants in ordinary sacks, very simple. And immediately people ask, like I live in an apartment, but how much of soil I want? To grow mint or pudina, you require only 4 inches of soil. And especially microgreens like fenugreek or mustard or any of these microgreens can be grown even in small plastic containers in which you get your lunch or anything. Just put a few holes, put up a little bit of soil and manure, put up the seeds over there, and they start growing. More simple, in tropical countries, even a coconut shell can be used to grow these microgreens. Very simple procedures, teach them, educate them, and finally reach nutrient food for the people. This is my veranda garden, where I try to incorporate certain components like toys along with plants. Now this attracts a lot and children love it. So this can be a hobby where you can manufacture and sell such products. So this can be a good income generation or revenue generation, where you can make such interesting combos and also market them. Or you can also go and set up terrace gardens to people as an economy or revenue generation. Because these sort of terrace gardens can give you good vegetables, which are nutritive and good for health, and also flower plants. There are so many things which you can design with. But many people feel, what happens when I get pests? Well, insects will come. They are good. Yeah, 1 or 2 may harm us. But in case you want it, don't worry about it. Take Professor Goat for a walk. Professor Goat. Yes, I call him professor because goats, let them eat what they want to eat. What a goat does not eat has pest repellent properties. Identify those plants, take them up. That's the reason why this plant is called as Ada Toda. Ada Toda means goat doesn't touch. Ada Toda, right? So take these sort of plants, squash them, prepare some sort of extracts, and these are all pest repellent products. Prepare a lot of foliar space. This can mean very good income generation for you. Very simple mechanisms is to prepare vermi wash. The procedure is available in my website. Any container can be put to use depending upon the type of money you have. This is how the vermi wash is produced, where worms keep multiplying, and the moisture which goes through that, the water which goes through the column is collected at the base. And this is vermi wash, which is the liquid fertilizer. People can prepare panchakavya. I'm glad that The group is recording this program so that you can always put this and see, and you start preparing them. You can prepare farmers' effective microorganisms with any fruit you have. Avoid citric, but any other fruit or vegetable which is overripe along with jaggery gives excellent results. And if you are eating fish, then all the waste which comes from the fish, the pieces which you don't eat, or trash fish, just mix it with jaggery, allow it to ferment for a couple of days, and you have an excellent fish amino, which is very, very nutritious for the soils and for the plants. Similarly, in case when during the flowering stage, you want much better flowers and much better fruits to come out of the flowers, the coconut buttermilk, which in Tamil we call it as the Tengapalmor or Temo Karaisal. So these things can be put to use. The simplest for a homemaker, yes, simplest for the homemaker is, after eating the banana, take the peels, put them in water, soak them for about 3-4 days, decant the water, dilute and spray. Excellent with lots of potassium. If you have eggshells, just slightly roast them. Slightly roast them. Put them in a bottle after crushing them. Put them in a bottle. Add a little bit of vinegar. Vinegar is acetic acid. Eggshells have calcium carbonate. The moment you put, it starts bubbling. And within about 24 to 48 hours, all the nutrients present in the eggshell come into this liquid. Dilute it, spray it. And if you want to know that whether you have prepared a good fertilizer, just put diluted fertilizer, whichever you have prepared, in a glass bottle or a plastic bottle, which is transparent. Keep an onion on the top. Roots start growing. If the roots are long and thick, that means you have discovered a new fertilizer. You don't need a scientific approval for it. You can produce, you are a scientist. And in case you get pest attacks, I normally find the simplest way is to use ginger garlic along with asafoetida, but you can always design your own mechanisms from your own kitchen, which can be good pest repellents. Bioenzyme can be prepared for cleaning, for washing. These are all income generation, revenue generation for women folk in rural areas. You can prepare them, you can use them. Seeds. Seed banks is a good initiative. As we rightly saw what Peter and Shahnaz were speaking, they were talking about seed banks, and this can be a very good income generation. In fact, Peter and Shahnaz have been doing a wonderful work over there in Sri Lanka, and you have seen their videos. These things can improve further. And if you want seeds, there are at least several varieties of seeds in your own kitchen, which you can take it and use it. Okay. Water. This again, you can become income revenue generation, because in every household, laundry, because every household has a washing machine. About 20% of the water, 24% of the water is produced from the laundry. Bathroom, we have bath in all the tropical countries and Asian countries and our African countries. This water can be recycled very easily by just making a tank and growing such plants like Phragmites or Colocasia or Canna, and they grow beautifully. And then you introduce your soap water, which comes over there from the washing machine. Now this water beautifully passes through here and then goes automatically to the other end as a clean water, which could be used for various purposes, including gardening purposes. Absolutely safe, nothing to worry, nothing to worry. The problem, only thing is, my request to you is, don't get confused about all these subheadings. Don't follow a leader. People may say permaculture is good, some may say biodynamic is good, some may say sustainable, some may say natural, some may say organic. You take whatever you want, blend them, use them, as long as it is non-chemical, non-poisonous farming. And I have always told that you are the scientist. So don't worry about it at all. And people tell about green thumb. I don't believe in it. If you have a thumb, it is green. Grow plants. Harvesting is only a bonus. My dream project for sustainable living is where 4 homes should become one cluster. And in the middle, you have a biogas plant. The toilets are connected to the biogas. It generates gas. The gas can go for the preparation of food in a community kitchen where all the 4 people can go and cook. The biogas will produce slurry as well. The slurry goes to the kitchen garden. And all these households, there'll be wastewater coming from washing machines or washing clothes or bathing. This water goes to the root zone treatment, right? Very simple, constructed wetlands. And there will be also other type of waste, kitchen waste, food waste, which is generated from the homes. This goes to the compost yard. if we connect them all, the community kitchen also produces food waste which goes to the compost. The community kitchen also produces soap water which goes to root zone treatment. And the water can be used to the kitchen garden. The compost also goes to the kitchen garden. So what happens finally? The kitchen serves food for all the 4 houses. The kitchen garden provides nutrients for all the 4 houses. An independent unit which can become beautifully functional. But if you really want to do this work, have patience. As rightly told by Shahnaz and good friend Peter, you have to have patience. Because today, even if you walk politely or coldly, there's somebody to push it up. So see to it that you are careful. All the best, good luck. And the details are available in my websites. The first website gives you all the procedures. And the third website, Simple Task, Great Concepts, 100 science experiments for your children at home, which they can do at home. Thanks a lot for all the organizers. Thanks a lot for the participants and all my other friends who are resource people on today's program. Good luck and all the best.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sultan. I think that was an entertaining end to a very informative video. We're definitely going to remember the penguin, if nothing else. So to start off our Q&A discussion, I had just started on one of the questions that we had is the access to land. We saw in Mr. Peters and Ms. Shanaz's video that there were a lot of widows who were benefiting from this program. And these are folks who have challenges when it comes to financial sustenance. So can you share a bit more detail in terms of how does this whole process work for them? Where do they get that access from? And how do you ensure that it's environmentally friendly? Because beyond a certain point in time, when you keep farming the same type of crop from that soil space, the nutrient value goes down, and then you have to put in something to enrich it with nutrients again. So how does that whole piece kind of work, the access to land and then making sure that it's sustainable going forward as well?
Yeah, hello. Thank you for giving us the space to talk. And we have been experiencing the issues of access to land, mainly in Europe. That's where we operate. So it's not an easy issue to tackle because there's a major gap in income, you know, that you can see if you own land and you use it for agriculture, or if you use land in a peri-urban setting, especially, you can earn much more land by converting it to housing land. So that's a major issue that we have regarding access to land. So here, there are clearly also limitations to grassroots activities. These are political questions, and we have to ensure that we can maintain the access to land and keep the land in agricultural use. So this requires political action. And for instance, in Europe, our way forward was that we created a network called Access to Land, comprising many initiatives, civil grassroots initiatives from all over Europe, getting together to making themselves heard that the access to land is a serious issue, and therefore reaching out to policymakers and so on. So you have to make yourself being heard. So that is an issue that I see also in South Asia or in other parts in Africa, surely also, that people have to put this issue on the agenda. It's one of the major issues, that we are losing the land that feeds us, you know, because of speculation. So we have to put up the pressure for the policymakers who are deciding on these issues to stop it. Now, the second part of the question was in respect to the nutrient cycle. And we promote polycultural systems, agroecological systems, where you have a crop rotation, where you have a flow of nutrients. But Sultan Ismail is the perfect person to explain it also. His system is by default increasing the nutrients because he thinks in a way that he doesn't want the energy to flow out of the earth. So there are systems to put that in place. Now, we have shown some examples also here from Sri Lanka. My kind of point is that we have a lot of good practices already in place. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel. What we need is to support these processes in a different way that we have been before, because a single initiative is it's too little for changing the system. We need to have a lot of little small initiatives join together in networks. So again, I like the idea of Sultan Ismail to think of getting together, putting households together on these kind of micro levels to operate. And we need to support these processes in a much different way. We can't have punctual little bit here and little bit there. We need structures for change. And that's our aim that we do in Sri Lanka. That's our aim in Germany. That's our aim in Europe where we operate.
It's wonderful to see this conference becoming an incubator for more ideas as you share some of these things as well. And to your point, I would like to direct this question to Dr. Sultan as well. In terms of crop rotation and things like that, the different ways that have been established, I wanted to switch over slightly towards the pandemic and the COVID situation that we're going through. I know that in terms of the urbanization, there's so much closeness and density in terms of population when it comes to urban areas. But when we talk about rural areas, there's definitely that natural distancing simply because of the rural situation over there. However, a lot of the negative impacts that happen in urbanization, for example, the pollution, people are just discarding their masks and their PPE, their protection equipment wherever they find it convenient. And then eventually rains and all these things just wash them over to some of the rural spaces as well. So Dr. Sultan, how do you feel some of the natural complexities of soil and the fertility of the soil, they have been compromised because of this pandemic situation that we're in? Have you seen any impact because of this? And do we have any suggestions on how we can mitigate this specific issue?
This big issue, pandemic health has been there because of discarding material. But the others, as far as income was concerned, was the pandemic made more eco-friendly, and actually people started moving towards non-chemical food as a non-chemical way of life because they felt that their immunity was getting lost. And all the media went on projecting that food which has more amount of good antioxidants and naturally grown food would give you a lot of information. As rightly planned by the young couple over there, Peter and Shanaz in Sri Lanka, you find, like what has happened is when the nutrients in the soil have depleted, the plants growing in that soil produce crops and cereals which do not have sufficient nutrients. Now, the government policies are that instead of taking care of the soil and producing good food, they would like to move to fortify food after harvesting the food, which is just chemical addition of nutrients to a harvested product, which may not supplement and provide the desired nutrition for the children, especially the younger generation. And they may never get that sort of a tendency to develop internal immunity. There has been some research in the UK where they have found out that organic, that is non-chemically grown food has more amount of salicylic acid in it. And salicylic is a precursor of aspirin. And people feel that most of the healthy antioxidants, as well as nutrients, as well as disease-resistant molecules can be produced by plants when they are grown in a non-chemical fashion. So pandemic has made this people realize, but I think that realization has been very short-living. Because once the pandemic is gone, people have thrown away the mask and they throw wherever they want now. And in spite of the governments requesting us to wear recyclable cotton masks, but as well as the PPE kits, I have seen in hospitals itself how PPE kits are being discarded. So these are going to cause a menace in systems. So it is a wonderful time on a platform like yours where you can reach many people. My simple thing is make them self-reliant. Seeds, 14 varieties of seeds are available in every kitchen. Banana peels soaked in water becomes an excellent fertilizer. Whatever may be the type of soil, that soil can be converted into a productive soil. I'm confident about it. It may not yield what you want, but it will yield what the soil wants. And if you can find out what the soil wants and provide that, we can approach to a lot of systems. I wish that your message reaches to a lot of nations which are trying to work on it. My apologies to my audience that I was not able to show you all the slides because I wanted to show you a lot of technologies which they can do by themselves. it's okay. But I'll leave the floor open for more questions that I could answer.
Of course, Dr. Sultan, thank you so much for that. I think you have appealed to the inner green gardener in us all, and we are now going to be saving our banana peels and our seeds.
Banu, sorry to interrupt. If anybody says that they don't have a green thumb, tell them that if they have the thumb, it is always green. That's all.
That's a wonderful message, Dr. Sultan. And that speaks to also Mr. Peter's message about how everyone needs to play a part in this. And it's not going to be a one-man show here whereby just one organization works through this, right? So I'm sincerely hoping that through this IUWF conference, more people are getting more interested and greatly put that the soil may not yield what you want, but the soil has an ability of its own to push through. And I see Mr. Peter wants to add in something here. Please do.
Yeah, thank you, Banu. I just wanted to add, we had, I think, at least here, there were some sound problems with one of the video clips. That was Anusha's video clip from the east coast of Sri Lanka, where she's doing a eco and artist village. And basically, I wanted to say the message that she put through is that this whole process of change that has to happen regarding soil, regarding production systems, regarding marketing, and all of these things, consumption patterns, they have a very strong cultural component to it also. So if that's why we presented it. So it's not a technical solution only. We cannot just do technical fixes. We need to change the culture, how we are doing things. And that is what she was pointing out. She's creating a space there where people can learn how to worship the benefits of Mother Nature, where we can learn how we can, as artists, as people, really redefine what is important for us, what is purposeful for our way of living. And these places are very important. We need the technical solutions, but we need the cultural places to create the sensitivity to make these changes. That was for us very important to add to this. You know, we need a different culture to address the problem. Thank you.
That is very well put, Mr. Peter, and definitely change comes from within us. There's only so much that we can provide in terms of awareness and things like that, but ultimately it's up to people to make that change. I'm having a great time with this conversation, but unfortunately time is not on our side. But I'm very happy that both Mr. Peter and Dr. Sultan, you did get a chance to kind of wrap up some of the ideas. And as Ms. Shanaz, thank you so much for guiding us through the videos as well and the presentation. And as Dr. Sultan, as well as Mr. Peter and Ms. Shanaz mentioned, contact details are in the chat window. And additionally, we will try through our social media channels to provide you with additional contacts as well for our participants. We have taken note of some of the questions that have come in, and we're going to try our best to address them through some medium. And we're hoping that this starts and accelerates a change throughout our community to think more about the environment, think about changing yourself, think about that green thumb that you never thought you had, but you do. And we're hoping that this will start off a cycle of change in the way you think about environment and in the way you think about empowerment. Now, with that, I would like to pass over the mic to Mrs. Subhangi Siva, who is our International Executive Officer, to wrap up this great event. Subhangi, over to you.
Thank you, Banu. Good day to all our honorable participants and audience. I feel honored to propose this vote of thanks on behalf of International United Women Federation and on my own behalf. I wholeheartedly thank our guest of honor and all the dignitaries present here for contributing their valuable time and giving us valuable knowledge and information. Thanks to all the people who were directly or indirectly involved to make this event successful. As this is our first parallel event at a United Nations session, this conference is an important stepping stone for many of our upcoming sustainable rural projects. We are planning to offer many sustainable development workshops and training sessions in the near future. I encourage you to visit our website at IUWF.com for more information. Members will have access to all our future events, workshops, and trainings. To our global audience, I would like to once again say that we all are very grateful for all the speakers at this conference. We thank you for being here with us today. It is a great pleasure, and thank you very much.